Jere here with Mills Chiropractic and Wellness Center, and this month we've been diving into sports, and I want to continue that trend as we keep moving forward here for the next couple of weeks. And one of the things with being an athlete or a weekend warrior or just the game of life, there's nothing worse than being sidelined with an injury, right? Whether it's from improper training, incorrect stretching routines, lack of a good warm-up, and they can all lead to an increased risk of sprains and strains and muscle injuries and joint injuries. But the good news is if you have a good plan of action, most of these things can be prevented. Developing a good fitness plan prior to your activity really is the key. And also developing some dynamic stretching and strengthening and cardiovascular exercise. These can all reduce your risk of injury, whether, like I said, whether you're an athlete, a weekend warrior, or just doing the game of life. And so, one of the things that we've learned over the last number of years is a lot of the stuff we learned as kids, and that's what we bring forward as we do activities as adults, right? A lot of the stuff that we were taught was actually somewhat incorrect. In fact, a lot of it over the last number of years, maybe the last 10 to 15 years, a lot of the recommendations have changed dramatically. When we were a kid, and we got ready for a sporting event or whatever we were getting ready for, we did a lot of what we call static stretching, right? Where we'd maybe sit on the ground and stretch our hamstring and try to stretch as far as we can, then do the other, and just little things like that. What the research has really shown us is that before an activity, we really need to switch things up a bit. So before an activity, what we want to do is more get the body warmed up, go for a little jog, maybe do a few push-ups, get the blood flow going, get the tissues ready for the event. And then we want to do what's called dynamic stretching. It's like when you see Michael Phelps getting ready to go into the swimming pool, he's doing a lot of this, right? And that's stretching, but it's movement stretching. And so that's the kind of stuff, jumping jacks, things like that, just to get the body warmed up, get the body used to moving, and then maybe throw in a couple of static stretches, but not very many. What they've actually shown is that the more static stretching we do before a performance, actually the greater the risk of our injury. We need to be doing that static stretching where we're sitting and reaching our toes, or hold long holds, with a stretch. That's more of a static stretch where we hold it. We need to be doing that after we perform, after we do the activity that we're doing. And we really need to do that multiple times a day leading up to the activity, but not necessarily right before. So it's not that you shouldn't do static stretching. It's just before an activity, try to do more dynamic stretching, right? And do more warm up at that point. The other big thing is being in cardiovascular fitness prior to the event is one of the big ways to head off an injury as well. So a lot of my weekend warriors that maybe sit at a desk all week and then try to get out on the weekend and play a softball game, and they injure a knee or injure a hip or something. A lot of times it's because they've been getting stiff all week. It wasn't the activity that was the problem. It was their lead up to the activity, right? It's what they were doing all week sitting at the desk. The other kind of thing that I wanted to just quickly touch on, we touched on this a little bit last month when we were talking about the low back and injuries and things, is that a lot of times when we injure something, the part that we injure really oftentimes is not the problem. It's usually that we're compensating for altered biomechanics or a weakness in a muscle somewhere or tightness somewhere else, and our body figures out how to get the job done, but it does it by compensating, and then we end up putting more pressure on a different area, whether it's a knee or a hip or the low back, and we put that extra pressure on those areas because they're trying to do more to try to make up for an area that's not doing enough, right? And then those are often the areas that end up getting injured, and that's why it's so important for regular care. That's why I really am such a huge proponent of regular care before an injury occurs, so that we can head those problems off. And like I said, a lot of the times we're successful is when things don't happen, which is always so hard to measure. So get your adjustments, get your dynamic stretching in, get your cardiovascular fitness in leading up to the event, and then afterwards and before, but not necessarily right before, but the leading up to it, do those static stretches, get those tissues to lengthen and be able to release and improve that pliability and that flexibility, so that when you go out, you're not dealing with these chronic injuries and constant injuries, right? So anyway, I hope you got something from today's talk. There's a lot of information I tried to cram into it. with the stretching and altered biomechanics and all that. So I hope you were able to catch something from it and apply something moving forward to try to prevent these unfun sports injuries. So anyway, until next time, stay healthy, stay well.